Hello and welcome to the Complete Hire Equipment WRFL Round 2 preview. Andrew Wilson here with Pepe Cavalieri as always. Welcome to the show, Pep.
Thanks, Willow.
Let's start with Division 1. Albion taking on Spotswood. Do you think the Woodsmen will be far too strong in this one?
You would think so. They were pretty good last week against Sunshine Spotswood. Challenged late, but held firm. They showed the heart that the Woodsmen always generally do. And Albion pretty disappointing last week, as we know, against Werribee District. So pretty easy one. Spotty for me. Yeah,
same. It's going to be a tough season, unfortunately, for Albion. Altona and Werribee District, this will be a beauty. How do you see this one?
Yeah, it should be a really good one. It's very difficult to tip. It's one of those ones where I'm going with the Vikings because it's at home, because also they had a good hit out last week against Hoppers Crossing. But the Tigers maybe a bit more training drill-like against the Cats, unfortunately for them. It's not really the type of lead-in you'd want. So Vikings for me, Willow.
I'm going to go with the Tigers in this one. It's going to be an interesting game, this one. You expect these two teams to be right up there at the end of the season. And the next game's an interesting one with Caroline Springs taking on Point Cook. Caroline Springs beaten comfortably in the end by Deer Park, and Point Cook in their first game in Division 1 were beaten by St Albans. It's going to be a tough one to pick, this one.
Yeah, I'm on Caroline Springs. I think Point Cook might be a little bit off the pace in Division 1, wary of making big calls only 1 week into the season. This will be a really big one for the Dogs to see where they do stand up. If they're competitive, then who knows, might be a better season for them. I just think Caroline Springs, they were pretty good for a quarter last week against Deer Park, so they should be too good.
1-0 St Albans take on the 0-1 Hoppers Crossing.
Again, difficult to get a gauge on St Albans because they kicked a pretty big score last week against Point Cook. Another step up in quality. Hoppers Crossing will be a good gauge for them to see how far they've come from last year, but the Warriors for mine, Willow.
Yeah, I'm going the Warriors as well. The final game of Rams Division 1 is Sunshine versus Deer Park. How do you see this one?
Well, I don't tip against Deer Park ever anymore, Willow. Lessons learnt in the past. But they are the most vulnerable early in the season, as we've seen over past few years. So if they're gettable, it's probably this week to Sunshine, who didn't get as close to them as they would have liked last year. Obviously a down season for the Roos, but that grand final a couple of years ago was outstanding, and they were pretty good. They showed some heart against Spotty as well. So should be a pretty good game down at Kinder Smith Reserve. It's their home ground, isn't it, Willow? So, but I think the Lions will be too good.
Yeah, Lions to me as well. Division 2, Manor Lakes take on Wyndham Vale.
Well, it's a big game. Manor Lakes probably feel a little bit unlucky last week. I think they kicked 21 goals and lost by 27 points. So that's not very often that happens in a real shootout against North Footscray. A very good test for the Storm to see where they sit against a Wyndham Vale side that beat probably the premiership favourites coming into the year, but now themselves might be premiership favourites, the Falcons. So they should be too good, but a real good test for Manor Lakes.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Falcons as well, but you could see this going the other way quite easily. Parkside take on North Footscray. North Footscray banged on that massive score against Manor Lakes. Parkside coming off the win against Newport.
Well, they're going to need to defend really well, Parkside. That's the one thing. Otherwise, they could have a big score kicked against them. They beat them last year as well, so they've got some winning history. The Parkers off after what was a really good season, their first season back in Division 2, and I suppose can they back it up this year? Here's a good test for them against a pretty informed team. But I am going with Parkside. That is my tip.
Yeah, I'm going with North Footscray to win that one. Two sides that lost in round 1, West Footscray and Newport.
Yeah, look, I actually liked the way West Footscray went about it last week. We spoke to Shane Lucas in the lead-up. It was our radio game, and I suppose an issue for them in the past has been just being able to maintain their focus and their fitness for 4 quarters, and they were very good early. Didn't get the score on the board when they probably deserved it against Point Cook Centrals, but then fought their way back a little bit. The game arguably could have been already over, but they didn't fall away and get blown out of the water, and that was probably a positive sign for them. So I think that'll hold them in good stead against Newport, especially on their home deck, which is going to be so important, especially that battle in the middle with the new 6-6-6. I think that's where they can get a hold of them with Darcy McCallum down forward. Yeah,
Darcy McCallum very much a handful, but I'm going to go with Newport to win that one. And the final game in Division 2 is Yarraville Seddon taking on very, very impressive Point Cook Centrals line up this weekend. It's going to be interesting. Can Point Cook Centrals get that run and gun going against another side that we know in the past has loved to run and gun in Yarraville Seddon?
Well, it's unusual for Yarraville Seddon to really not be the yardstick in Division 2 anymore, you feel, now that there's a team that's come back to the pack from Division 1. In Wyndham Vale, maybe that's what they need, Willow. just to not be the hunted for once, because that's what they've been the last couple of years. Maybe the pressure will come off them a little bit. Maybe they'll be able to perform better. Certainly, I mean, they couldn't perform much better than they did last year. It was just that one game right at the end when it mattered most. So Point Cook Centrals, we've seen they've added plenty of talent to their team. Those Menagerie boys look the goods. They've still got some experience and some very exciting young players who look to have improved after another pre-season under their belt. So this will be a really good test for the Sharks to see how they stack up against one of the premiership fancies in Division 2, but I will be going for the Eagles.
As will I, Eagles to win that one. Division 3, Auburn take on a very much improved Glen Ordon. This will be a good game.
Well, I had a thought during the week, Willow. A couple of years ago when Glen Ordon did have a team in the competition before they had a year off rather, they're in Division 2.
Yep.
So, yes, they struggled last year in Division 3, only the one win. They were outstanding last week. Perhaps if they've sorted themselves out a bit, maybe they're a little bit closer to their Division 2 incarnation, which if they are, they're going to be a good team this year, the Hawks. We'll have to wait until we have a look at them to see how they will stack up. So this could be a really, really good game against an Auburn Vale side that was well led by its experienced players last week. If they can do that again, they're going to be tough to beat. So I'm on the Cobras, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Hawks push them really far and maybe have a good season this year.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Cobras as well at home. The Battle of the Sunshines with North taking on Heights. I think Sunshine Heights will win this one.
Yeah, you would think so. They were pretty disappointing last week. Sunshine Heights, in the end, by their standards, against Auburn Vale and by their own admission as well. North Sunshine, just the one goal. You're not going to win many games if you can't hit the scoreboard like that. So I'm on the Dragons.
Yeah, same with me. Tarneet take on Laverton. Both sides 1-0. Both had big wins last week.
Yeah, 27 goals for Tarneet, a very inexperienced side as well. They've got some new young talent coming in as well, and they're looking good from all reports. Probably one of the, if not the premiership fancy in Division 3 rather. So they should be really hard to beat, I think, especially Laverton. Even though Laverton kicked 30 goals last week, they had 62 scoring shots against North Sunshine.
Yeah, they wouldn't have had that for a long time. They might have struggled to get that all last year at times.
No, so I would surmise out of that they've certainly improved from last season. I don't care how good or bad you are. You have to be half decent, I think, to produce that sort of ratio inside 50. But I'm on the Titans.
Yeah, Titans for me as well. The final game of Division 3 is our radio match of the day with Wyndham Suns taking on Braybrook. Two teams we expect to be at the pointy end of Division 3, both coming off round 1 losses.
Yeah, both pretty disappointing last week. Pretty heavy losses for both sides as well. It's very early to be calling it, but it's a very important game for both teams. Neither want to fall to 0-2. Both finalists last year. We know Wyndham Suns were in the grand final against Point Cook Centrals. Braybrook will be wanting to improve on their 4th place finish in 2018, so they can't afford to be 0-2. This was a cracking game last year at this venue. Braybrook burst out of the blocks and called it pretty early. They ran out of gas at quarter time, and they still managed to hold on. I'm on the Brookers, but it's a really 50-50 game, I think, Willow.
Yeah, I'm going to go the Brookers as well in that one. And finally, the Victorian University Polytechnic Senior Women's Competition begins this weekend. Starts off with West Footscray taking on Braybrook, who are new to the competition.
Yeah, well, the women's competition continues to grow. We'll probably see more teams enter the fray in the coming years as well. So West Footscray, they finished 5th last year. So it's really hard because we don't know the extent to the new teams coming into the competition. But I'm going to tip West Footscray on their home deck, I think, for this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with West as well. Tarneet take on Laverton, 4th and 8th. They finished respectively last year.
Yeah, again, who knows whether Tarneet can follow the example of their men's side and bring in some new talent. But I think Laverton, for mine, will show some improvement over the off-season. You're going to see those teams that were already have a year under their belt are going to be much better this year.
Yeah, agreed. I'm going to go with Laverton as well. North Sunshine take on Werribee Centrals.
Yeah, North Sunshine struggled a little bit last year. They finished on the bottom of the ladder. Werribee Central's 6th. So it should be a pretty good contest between these two sides. I'm going to go for Werribee Centrals. But again, there is an element of unknown going into round 1, as there was last week with the men's competition.
Yeah, certainly is. Yarraville Seddon take on Point Cook Centrals.
This one is a tough one to pick. Yarraville Seddon coming into the competition for the first time this year against a Point Cook Centrals team that, the club as a whole, Point Cook Central, there's a lot of excitement about what's going on about there, the new redeveloped club rooms as well to better facilitate the girls coming to play. And I'm going to go for the Sharks.
Sharks for me as well. And second place, Caroline Springs last year take on Point Cook, who are new to the competition.
Well, you can't go past a team that made the grand final last year. They were outstanding. But we saw what Point Cook did in the men's last year, so who knows what they'll be able to produce. They've got some great facilities down there as well at Saltwater Reserve. So should be a cracking game. Caroline Springs, for mine, will be hoping to go one better this year.
Lakers for me. And last year's premiers, Manor Lakes, take on the another new side to the competition in Wyndham Vale.
So you can't really go past Manor Lakes in this one, Willow. They were terrific last year. Really, they finished on top. They won the premiership. They dominated. They had all the stars of the competition. And they'll be looking to go back-to-back, and I suppose there's no reason why they can't.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And Spotswood has the bye in the Victorian University Polytechnic Senior Women's Competition. This has been the complete hire equipment WFL Round 1 in the men, Round 2 in the men's, Round 1 in the women's. Good luck to your team this weekend.